Now, debate etiquette of U.S. Senate candidates before you will commence in just a moment, and that segment will take a bit over an hour. The first half of each panel will feature candidates taking questions formed by our group, Grassroots Conservatives of Nevada. They have opening statements, and then we're going to go right into questions. Each candidate will get to answer the same question with an initial 1-minute response. Then we will open it up to a 3-minute discussion among the candidates on that specific topic. Then we'll repeat the process with a few more GCon questions, and after that segment, we'll go right into the town hall portion and follow the same protocol. At the end, each candidate will then have 1-minute closing statements. We'll then break for 15 minutes or so before we start the Nye County Commission debate panel. Their format will be the same. Now, some quick ground rules for the audience. Don't throw anything. You can be boisterous. We don't. It's not a library. We can be involved. That's fine. If you're going to be a fantastic crowd, I know you're going to be a fantastic crowd. So I know you're going to be respectful and not be too rowdy as the candidates are speaking. But some applause and random cheering is okay. I expect this debate to have a pulse. Now, debate etiquette for the candidates. Just got to go over this. I know you're going to be fine, but might as well do it. We want this to be a spirited debate and give you plenty of room during the discussion period to make some points. Respect one another up here, so please refrain from ad hominem or character attacks. Criticism of your opponent's policy positions and record is okay, but please stay on topic and try to share time with one another. Also, all of our candidates should be conscious of the fact that this is an all-ages event. Little ears and little eyes are focused online as well as here in the venue, so let's just keep it civil. Without further ado, let's allow each candidate an opening statement of 1 minute. We'll start with you, Mr. Lindeman, and work our way across the stage. Last set of housekeeping items. I'm sorry, guys. To prevent feedback, I've been told this 3 times tonight. Each time you want to talk, you do have to flip the thing up, the little knob up towards you. You see the little, sorry about that. Yeah, because right. when all 5 are on, we're getting feedback.
I got it. Electrical genius I am not, so that's the way that's going to go. My name's Barry Lindeman. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, obviously. I grew up on a small ranch in northern Wyoming, so I have a very Western sort of philosophy about how you approach life, which is you rely on yourself and the government needs to remain small. I came to Nevada in about 2000, 99, 2000. I worked for construction, underground utilities. I got pretty good at it, and then when I got too old to do that, I transitioned to finance. I got really good at finance. I got my MBA, and then
You're good.
Okay.
I pointed at 30 seconds, so
okay.
31.
Okay, so I got really good at finance, and now I run a real estate portfolio. I got 2 prongs in my platform, which is taxpayer first and punish the government. And at the end of the day, I hope that when we're doing this debate up here, that people sit there and see why we say what we say, because we're going to have a lot of similarities. We just need to know what our position is and why we say it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Bill Conrad, candidate for United States Senate, and welcome. It's great to be in Pahrump to see so many faces and people out here. You are the folks who are going to win for Republicans, because you got to get out there and get hundreds of other Republicans to vote, because we need to vote. So again, my name is Bill Conrad. I'm one of 2 candidates who's a combat veteran and a West Point grad. Unfortunately, the captain's not here tonight, and there's a lieutenant colonel, and that's me. I served 4 tours in Afghanistan. I saw the worst and the best of humankind there. My sergeant major's son was shot and killed, and it's a rough place. And my heart goes out to Sam Brown and his family and what he went through, and his driver who was killed. It's a terrible thing, but war is not good. And my job, since I have 3 kids in the military, one of them is to keep us out of war. I'm also one of 2 candidates who's been elected to office. Prior to 9/11, I served 31 years, 9 years active, Air National Guard, and then back to the Army. So I got to finish it up, but I'm one of 2 candidates to be elected to office. I won 5 elections. And I'll talk more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Stephanie Phillips, and I want to thank Matt for putting this together. And thank you all for coming. And With Veterans Day coming up, I want to thank all of the veterans in this room, because without you and without those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, we would not be here. I grew up in a small town in southern Oregon, and I lived in the country. We grew pretty much everything we ate, canned in the summertime. And then I moved down to the Bay Area, got a little taste of city life, and then found my way here 30 years ago. I have been in the real estate business that whole time. I started my own company 19 years ago almost. I'm a child of God. My faith is very important to me. We are one nation under God, and we have gotten so far from that. I have 2 kids. I'm a mom. I'm a Blue Star mom. My son serves, and I am running because of what they did to us during COVID. And I'll talk more about that, but we need a fighter in this seat that is never going to lock us down again and never do those things to us again.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tony Grady, and it's my pleasure to be here. We know why we're all here, because of the failed policies of this administration, rubber-stamped by Jackie Rosen. Any of my colleagues here will do a better job than Jackie Rosen. I'm a proud veteran. I'm proud to be here in Nevada. I'm proud to be in Nye County. I want you to know that I am running to represent you. My policies will be to get us back to energy efficiency, to secure our border, and to get the United States back in its proper place in the world stage. I am Tony Grady, running to be your next United States Senator. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. 1 minute is really short time. My name is Rhonda Kennedy. There's one thing that I'm going to say to everyone here and everyone in the state of Nevada. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I've already done. I'm the attorney that filed the federal lawsuit during the lockdowns that closed the gun stores, that forced the gun stores back open, won twice to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm the only attorney in the country that successfully defended businesses when they were closed during COVID, and the county went after them and wanted them to pay $600,000 to $1 million in fines and take their health permits. Guess what? No fines, no penalties, they kept their health permit. I have one of the only surviving 2020 election fraud cases that won in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and just went back to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I just filed a federal lawsuit against Facebook, Meta, and I'll tell you more about that. But I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I've already done, and I'm an open book, and you can ask me anything. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, candidates. Now, we're going to the question portion of the debate. Here is the first question brought to you by Grassroots Conservatives of Nevada. It is no secret that our national debt, inflation, and supply issues are harming the U.S. economy. Spending on defense, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other income security programs like the child tax credits, unemployment compensation, and a host of others are a majority of all U.S. expenses. What is your plan to effectively stop the deficit spending? And I do apologize, but we can only allow about a 1 minute initial take on this, and then we're going into a discussion, so hopefully we can press that out a little bit. We'll start again with you for the first question here, Mr. Lindeman.
Thanks, Matt. I'm the rookie here, so I'm taking a few tips from Bill. As far as the debt goes, you're $33 trillion headed into $36 trillion, and you're going to get $1 trillion in interest every year. Okay. What you have to stop spending, and that seems like a simple answer on this, because nobody can envision the United States of America going bankrupt. But what I'm going to propose when I get there is that we actually, instead of doing one budget, is you do two. You do your budget, your main budget, where you keep Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and defense all funded by the first dollars that come in, and then everything after that you put in a ancillary budget, and that's really where the fight needs to go. You have to protect the entitlements for people here because they've made promises, they've put it in there, they put their money in there, and we have to ensure that people have money to live on. It's a shame that illegal immigrants right now are coming in and they're getting more money than the average Social Security recipient.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'll go back and start where I finished up. I was elected 5 times. I won 2 general elections. And as a city council and vice mayor of a city of 200,000, what I did was I've got a proven record that you can go and look at. That's one thing I have as a candidate. There's only 2 of us that have that. And what I did as a city councilman, I was very conservative. We only voted for the basics, roads, streets, services. We weren't going to build performing arts centers or anything like that. You've got to apply the same thing with the federal government. Last year we spent $7 billion. We only brought in $5 trillion we brought in, and we sent $7 trillion. We can't go into deficit $2 trillion a year. So we have to stop. We have to balance the budget. We have to cut back. And that means that we don't send $100 billion to Ukraine. That's one thing we do. The Europeans need to pay their fair way. We got to watch the military because that's one of our biggest points of budget. We need a strong military. We need deterrence. We need good people in the military. But we have to cut back everywhere. It's non-essential. We must balance the budget. The biggest risk we have is continue to print fiat money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that question because that is a problem and overspending. I will always support our military. I will always protect seniors and Social Security. However, when I have read some of these budget items, there are billions and billions of dollars that are lost due to fraud. I would go in and audit these government agencies and find where all of that fraud is taking place. It will save us so much money. Also, the reckless spending has got to stop. We need to have a balanced budget. I will push for that. And I also will never support our tax dollars going to pay for illegals and all of these other things that they want to spend our money on, and that is just completely reckless. So I am going to protect you and your tax dollars.
One of the things that I did was command the B-2 stealth bomber test squadron. It was a $24 billion event out there. So I understand how some of these major programs fit and how they're funded. I also was in charge of the president's portion of the bomber budget and the military budget, and I understand how that arcane process works. What we need is leadership to get back to regular order. We have 4 appropriation bills coming from the House that are sitting in the Senate right now, and the Senate's not doing its job. So look at constitutionally what government is responsible for, get back to regular order by the leadership that is in the Senate. That's what I will advocate for, and then we need to go from there. We need to make sure that we do stop spending, and we have to cut a lot of fraud.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I won't be very popular in the Senate, but the first thing I would do is I would introduce to cut the pay and the salary of Congress and the Senate because they're way overpaid and maybe we won't have too many career politicians. But number one, America is not a welfare country. The rest of the world looks at America to bail them out. I would first look at how much aid do we send to certain countries. If they're not on board, like President Trump did this, he was brilliant. When it came to deporting people who were here illegally and their countries didn't want to take them back, he picked up the phone and found out how much money do we send this country each year. He says, that much money? Well, cut it off. And guess what happened? They took their citizens back. So that's the first thing I would do is stop having America be a welfare country and cut the foreign aid off.
Thank you, ma'am. So now as we go into our 3-minute discussion period on this singular topic, we're going to start from the other side of the stage right now. I want to lead this discussion off by asking Rhonda a question to just spark the debate. You're each going to have a chance to go ahead and be first to do that. But Rhonda, what would uniquely position you over opponents either on this stage or maybe the ones that are not on the stage to give you a leg up with regard to this type of question, this type of activity?
Well, first of all, I'm a litigator. I understand the law. A legislator makes the law. And I understand the powers of each branch of government. And time and time again, I've heard people running for office, and they don't understand their limitations on their office. There's an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. And I uniquely understand that. I'm a constitutionalist, and so that's my governing rule. That's my beacon of light. That's what I follow. If it's not in the Constitution, I don't care about my personal feelings or anyone else's personal feelings. I'm going to protect the Constitution, and therefore protecting every single American that's not just in Nevada, but across this country. And the first thing that I'm uniquely able to do is I can look outside of the box and look at different ways of how to attack things legally. Like, that's how I opened the gun stores. That's how I defended businesses during COVID. That's how I'm suing Facebook. And the first thing I would do is talk to my colleagues in Congress and call for impeachment hearings on these judges who are abusing their power. Because I understand the Constitution. I know that the only way you can get rid of a federal judge is to impeach them. And the power is in Congress and in the Senate to convict them. So I would uniquely use my legal knowledge and my love of the Constitution to be able to attack all of these traitors, these treasonous traitors that are in the Senate. And I'm not just talking about one side of the aisle. We have vipers in the other side of the aisle too, and our side of the aisle, and we need to clean house.
Okay. Any candidate, please chime in at your will. This is opened up.
This was a budget question, right? You were talking about the deficit?
Yes.
Debt? Yeah, so let's talk about numbers, guys. You're talking about the way the United States government sees the debt and the deficit, and they don't care. And you have to ask yourself why they don't care. It's because they don't see it as debt, okay? It's all gonna come back onto you and your taxes. We have to talk about making you wealthy. When you're wealthy, then the government can pay back its taxes, but nobody's being wealthy right now. Taxes are too high on you. The economy is suffering from inflation, right? You're paying too much for your Medicare, Medicaid. The VA's in absolute disarray. Money's being spent where it doesn't need to go. They can't even close the border. They send money down to the Golden Triangle and those countries down there, and they have people come up. They're paying them to come up. They're flying them in right now. So how can you send $46 million to Ukraine plus $14 billion, I keep saying million, I mean billion dollars to Israel, and then expect us to come and pay the bill at the end of the day? If you look at it, everybody in the United States now owes, and I mean kids too, $97,000 each. You tackle the numbers. It isn't about legislation. It isn't about suing people. It isn't about that. Get your house in order by tackling the legislation. And that means cutting the budget. That's why you need to have two budgets.
We're gonna have time for one quick 30-second addition to that part of the discussion. If either of the panelists want to answer on that, well, you already spoke. We're gonna have to hear from one of the other panelists.
So one of the things that
Right.
I shared about being uniquely qualified is I've been in that process. I was a young lieutenant when they were doing continuing resolutions, wondering if I was going to get paid because things were shut down. So I understand it for when I was a young man. And then when I was in the Pentagon working on the air staff, I saw how the legislatures treat money. We have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And so one of the first things we need to do in terms of leadership is we need to get our house in order and process regular order of passing the budgets and not omnibus bills where everybody hides things. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to get back to energy efficiency, because when energy is expensive, everything in the supply chain is more expensive. It costs more to get our food, gas, and everything. So if we can get our physical house in order doing that, it will improve things. And I think it's important that you know that I am not a lawyer. We have lots of attorneys who are legislators. How's that working out for us? So the reality is I think it's good that we get people that come from other areas where they have other experiences to help lead this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're gonna move to the next question, but William Conrad and Stephanie Phillips, you are gonna have the first chances to expound on the next question. I apologize. We have two panels. I really wanted to devote 2 hours to the U.S. Senate. We could go on for probably 3 or 4, but I appreciate your patience through this abbreviated effort here. So on to the next question here. This one, William Conrad, you're going to get the first response to it. Since the lifting of Title 42, Customs and Border Patrol recorded 99,545 encounters of illegal immigrants at ports of entry along the southwest border, a 42% increase from May of 2023. Would you support the appropriation of funds to build a wall at our southern border? Why or why not?
Absolutely. And here's another thing. I'm the only candidate who has worked on the border. I also flew drug interdiction in the Bahamas against the cartels and in Honduras. And I want to tell you, there's even something worse than that. I got to talk at this point because every day I get a daily brief. I used to work with CIA folks. I was a DIA. And I get a brief. We all sit around, we're retired, and we write this daily. And there is, right now, the United States government has given over $1 billion to non-governmental NGOs to help the Central Americans and others come up into the country. Since August, there have been over 300 flights from Haiti to Nicaragua, and there were 10 last Saturday. Those, we're trying to verify who those were paid for, but I'm sure they were paid for the NGOs. Then they go into El Salvador. El Salvador charged them $1,000. Now, these are generally poor people. Where are they getting the money to pay the cartels to get up into the United States? Folks, the other area, too, is we have over 5 million Chinese nationals in the United States right now. We're going to get hit again.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie?
Speaking about the border, yes, I would absolutely do that. I believe there's money already appropriated for that. However, they are using that money in other ways. Just like the speaker took $14.5 billion and wanted to take from the IRS $80 billion and appropriate it for Israel, I would gladly take that $80 billion from the IRS funding and use that to secure our country. Our national security is of utmost importance, and they are doing nothing to secure our border. They have no idea how many terrorists are coming over the border. I have said many times, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we are attacked on our soil. That has to be priority one. Also, I would appropriate funds to a sex trafficking task force to end human trafficking. That has gotten so much worse because they have allowed this border to be open. And also, I would deport all of them that have come over the border the last 3 years and send them back to Mexico.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Tony?
I would definitely agree with my colleagues here on securing the border. It's a constitutional responsibility if you look in the 14th Amendment. If you do not have a border, you don't have a country. So that's the primary responsibility of government. So I would build a wall. I would fire our current Secretary of Homeland Security because senators advise and consent. And so we need a secretary that's going to enforce the laws, and then we need to relook at the asylum laws so that we make sure that they're tweaked. Our laws in the books are good. There needs to be some tweaking, but we need to secure our border. What drives us in the United States is grand strategy. We fund the grand strategy to protect our people, protect the Constitution, and to protect our land mass. If we are not doing those three things, we are not performing as elected officials should. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda?
First, I'd like to say that everyone has something negative to say about attorneys until they need one. Because Donald Trump's not sitting in the courtroom with other people, he's sitting there with his attorneys. So, number one, I hear a lot of these ideas, but in my head, I'm like confused because constitutionally they don't work. Because like I said, there's different limitations on your office. You can't fire, that's an executive branch, the head of the Homeland Security that was appointed by the president. You have to impeach them. If you want to start impeachment processes, then you do that. The other thing is, I hear the problems, but I don't hear solutions. You're not going to be legislating by yourself. We have 100 U.S. senators. We have 435 members of Congress. You have to work around that. So what I would do is actually read the laws, the existing laws, and the bills to find the loophole, how to use it against them to get what I needed.
Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda.
Absolutely.
So we're going to lead up some of a quick follow-up question to spark a little more discussion. I'll start with Stephanie Phillips on this one. In light of some of the events worldwide, whether it's Ukraine and now, of course, in Israel, there's some comparisons made, that we should probably be bolstering our own defenses here locally. How do you reconcile that in light of the international scene while also having enough resources at home to take care of our homeland as priority number one?
Well, I tell you, I think that we need to be extra vigilant. People need to be involved. We need to get leaders in office that are actually going to put America first. They have put us last. They are not protecting us. They don't know who is coming into this country. I will make that a priority. We need to put our citizens first. And when we look at the money that we are sending to other countries, we are forsaking our own. So I would propose that we take care of our country, we take care of our border and safety first before that money gets sent to other countries.
Thank you. And William, I want to give you an opportunity. I'm trying to divvy up the time properly here, so if you want to chime in on that.
So best way, first of all, simple solution, whether you're impeaching somebody or not, is elect Republicans, conservative Republicans to office. We need a majority in the Senate, Congress, and the president, and we'll get our country back. We're going to lose our country if the Democrats stay in power. This next election, we could lose our country. This is the most important election of my lifetime, and I want to keep this country for our kids, because I think we could lose our country inside a few years. Anytime. We could lose it fiscally by the government. We could lose it by invasion, by tearing apart. Our country is not in good shape right now. So what I would say is elect Republicans, shut down that border. You can't have anybody go across, and you can't have to deport a lot of people who are not Americans.
Thank you, sir. Pierre, did you want to chime in the last 30 seconds or so of this?
Yeah, that was, the question was about Hamas and Israel, right?
The follow-up, yeah.
Yeah, so look, Hamas is a terrorist group, okay? People don't want to say that, and they're not barbarians, they're savages, okay? And they're going after the Jews first, but the Christians are coming next. And they're already over here, okay? So here's the thing. Israel needs the billions so we can stop them there before they get here, right? So we need to put that out there. And closing the border is probably the biggest thing that we can do to stop them from coming through. America makes $5 trillion a year. There's plenty of money. You want to know the difference between $1 million and $5 trillion? Here it is. $1 million is 33 minutes, 33 days. I apologize for that. $5 trillion is 33 years. You got plenty of money. We can fund everything. We're just making poor choices on what we're funding. And you guys need to be wealthy. That's what we need to sit there and make our economy do.
Time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate all your questions during that panel discussion for that question. So we're going to move to our third and probably final of this portion before we get to town hall questions here. The first question is going to be, Stephanie, you're going to go first on this one. In the last administration, we became energy independent. We are currently energy dependent. which energy strategy do you support, and what would you do to support that goal?
You know, it's a shame when the Biden administration, when he cut the keystone, when he first came into office, and it was a domino effect from there. They have killed the oil land leases and sales and all these things. We should be energy independent. We can be. And I would definitely support drilling more. We need to be selling more oil and producing more. We have a shortage, so we have high gas prices. It doesn't have to be that way. We can fix that. So I would definitely support oil and drilling some more. And nuclear energy is actually a very clean energy. I would support that as well. And we need to get back to the Trump policies, because we were prospering, we were doing well, we were energy independent, and we can get there again.
Thank you, Stephanie. Tony.
I agree that we can be energy independent, and I would look at the strategy of, again, opening the Keystone Pipeline, drilling in Anwar, and then, of course, giving real leases to the oil companies so they can actually explore and they can use those leases to actually go out and do what they do best. We need to make sure that energy stands on its own. We shouldn't subsidize things that are not efficient. We have a lot of natural gas. But energy is a twofold for us, because if we make the energy prices go down, our enemies, like Iran, will not have the funds to be able to support terrorists. So I believe that we should be energy dominant, and we get two things out of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rhonda?
This is kind of a short answer, but yes, we need to go back. We need to roll back to the Trump administration and go back to being energy independent. We need to open up the pipeline again, absolutely. But I would, as a U.S. Senator, support the Republican President, Donald Trump, in doing those things, because that would have to be the president that would do that. But I would support the president, Donald Trump, in us becoming energy independent again. And also, take my remaining time to go back to the border. I would stop giving aid to the countries who have the largest number of immigrants in this country and send them back.
I'm going to let Tony Grady kind of initiate the discussion portion of this, and we'll hopefully let most of the panelists. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally cut you. I'm so linear here. Sorry about that. We around the world here. Mr. Lindeman, I apologize. Your 60 seconds in response to that question. I apologize.
Well, thanks very much. I didn't know you were leaving me out. It's the way my life works. Hey, so we all agree that we all need to be energy independent, but what I'm not hearing up here is how you get to that. If Donald Trump's not the president, how are you going to get there? And it starts with the credit markets. We have to know this inside and out. Signals have to be given to the credit markets so they can lend money to the oil producers and the oil drillers. It costs money to do that, to get in those great big trucks and service those pipes and go out there and drill. You know, I don't even know what a platform in the Gulf costs, but I bet you it's a lot of money. If those companies, and it is Chevron and Exxon, besides all the smaller companies, if they don't get the signal from Wall Street, and I don't like Wall Street, but if they don't get the signal from Wall Street, they're not going to be able to borrow the money they need to make us energy independent. The first thing that has to happen is economics. And that means we have to signal the credit markets that it's okay to go and drill.
Time.
If Trump's there, we'll probably okay, but understand the process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So the first thing we have to do is we have to get rid of the Green New Deal. It's killing us. The socialists, the communists are killing us. We have a communist element out there that's trying to destroy our country right now. You've got to understand that. So elect Trump or DeSantis because they will get us energy independent again. They will replenish our reserves. Right now, our reserve is like 2/3 down. If we go to war, we're out of fuel. We can't fuel our Navy right now if we go to war. So we better fix it fast before we lose it. You know, the election can't come soon enough, and we have to win this next election. So some things that we have to do, like we've all mentioned, we all know we have to get energy independent again. We've got to frack. We've got to reduce regulations. Trump reduced regulations. That's what really got us going. We've got to pump. We've got to sell. And finally, I want to tell you something. Germany is really torquing me off right now. They're buying so much natural gas right now from Russia. They're funding Russia, and they're not paying their fair share of Ukraine. That torques me off to no degree. Europe is bothering me right now. They're mostly socialist. So anyway, that's some of the things we can do.
Thank you, sir. Again, apologies, panel. Sorry for that. Now, Tony Grady, if you want to start off the discussion and further that, I know there's a lot to unpack here, so any direction you want to take this topic of energy independence, if you want to add on to spark some more discussion here. Yeah, if you can keep it about 1 minute so we can at least get 3 out of the 5 panel.
Sure. Some of the things that we need to spark on that I was kind of hitting on is that you need to look at energy standing on its own. We've been subsidizing things that are not ready for prime time when we talk about green energy and things like that. The energy density in 1 cubic foot, 1 cubic inch, whatever, of oil is just so much more efficient. We need to be doing that. And as it was mentioned already, we need to be looking at nuclear. And that's very near and dear also to our state. It's foolish to be saying that we're going to force everybody to have cars, electric vehicles. The government doesn't tell us what we do. What we need to do is to do it logically. And one of the things of being in the TUS world is I understand logic on that. So we're not looking at fuel cells. We're not looking at a myriad of other things that we can do. So we need to open it up and actually do some good R&D.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. First person to raise their hand gets to chime in on this one. Rhonda, sorry about that. I'm trying to keep it there.
Okay.
And then we're going to go to Ms. Phillips after you.
Well, the one thing I won't do is do more corporate welfare by giving money to the oil companies because they have to go drill. Because I think we've bailed them out enough times. And we're still paying for the Exxon spill as well. They still owe the U.S. taxpayers money. So I wouldn't start by giving money to the oil companies. Secondly, we do have to look at more independent ways of getting fuel, of energy, and more clean energy. I hate to say it, I'm not a tree hugger, but we do have to leave this planet to our children. So I think we do need to start looking to the future for cleaner energy, but we also have to look at the here and now, which is the here and now is oil. Yep, 1 minute, sorry, time's up. 1 minute.
Stephanie?
I just want to say, because we brought up the Green New Deal and this climate crisis that they have created, I just want to tell you how I feel about that, because I don't believe it's a crisis at all. I believe that they have implemented all of these things. They want us to go to these electric vehicles. They want to control every aspect of our lives. And I tell you, I will not support that at all. All these solar farms, these solar panels that we see, guess where those panels are coming from? China. So they're not supporting American businesses. They're getting those from China. I don't really agree with that either. We should be supporting American business. So all of this push for this Green New Deal and this climate crisis and all these billions of dollars that are being spent in the name of a crisis, I don't go along with any of it and don't agree with it.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. William, you could go. If you could keep this under 30 seconds or so.
So I was going to say how I'd fix it. Limited government, free enterprise works. That means no subsidies, but limited government. That reduces the size of government. And then also, I'm not a believer in climate change. We've always had some kind of climate change. I do not believe in climate change. It's a threat to get us to fear. And then finally, I want to say that you notice that they're forcing us all into high density downtown. You will own nothing and live in an apartment or a condominium that you don't own. So we need to get back to allowing free markets to build homes for people and commute and buy cars.
Thank you, candidates. Now for the fun part. We're going to do. Oh, well, yeah.
I'm trying to obey the rules.
Out of the spirit of fairness, definitely. Our discussion on that one went a little bit
Yeah,
longer. Sorry.
I know. Tailing at the end again.
Right.
Look, here's the deal. I read the green energy part of the Inflation Reduction Act, okay? And it's simply this. Government, the way it is being run right now, has a model by which it runs, and it's a very static model. You can't sit there and say, oh, something changed and you moved. They're going to make you, by 2035, buy a new EV, right? We have to find a new model for what we're going to do.
Time.
Nobody up here believes in the hyper-environmentalists. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and get to the town hall portion of the event. So keep in mind, we are not hand selecting or pre-screening any questions. I just ask the audience to keep the questions respectful and addressed to the panel as a whole, if you can, because I want them each to be chiming in on a response. So our first question is coming from Karen Waldman for the U.S. Senate panel. Karen, wherever you're at, they're going to run a microphone to you. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So the green energy produces an awful lot of toxic things, the lithium batteries. They don't know what they're going to do with all of these solar panels that expire much sooner. We're going to be sitting on a bunch of garbage. What are your plans to protect our country, and what will you be doing to stop voting for things that cause harm to our country while acting like green is fabulous?
Okay, so Tony Grady, you're up first to answer the first 60-second question there.
Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. There's a lot of things that go into that. There's a lot of strategic minerals that go into all of these things. We're going to have to figure out how to recover some of those minerals out of it. Near and dear to our heart here in Nevada is that mining is important. And right now, strategic minerals are being controlled by China and different things like that. So one of the things we need to do with all of those things that are going to be discarded is how do we get things that are useful out of them. But I think that I have to give deference to Mr. Conrad here because he actually said it. The real answer to that is we need to get away from a government telling us what to do and start having the free market principles determine what we do. There are a lot of people that understand how to salvage things. There are a lot of people that understand how we can recycle things. But we need to stop subsidizing the making of those things. That's the first thing we need to do.
Thank you, sir. Rhonda?
Well, here's an idea. How about we add, if you want to do the Green New Deal, you want to have all of this solar panels and that we add a caveat in there that China has to take them back. We ship them back to where they came from and they can figure out and dispose them.
Nice answer.
Okay, now to you, Barry.
I love that answer. I wish it would work. I do. I think as far as we're talking about green energy, right? So it's a conundrum, right? As far as I'm concerned, we need to go pick up all the plastic out of the rivers and the ocean. That's my green plan, right? There's too much trash in there. I don't need to have solar panels and I don't need to have wind turbines and things like that. But to get rid of them and everything, we're going to have to see. The sun is the only thing that bakes these things apart. And if they're not exposed to the sun, they're just going to sit in the ground. You have to remember, they're trying to put in a lithium mine up north, right? You know how many gallons it takes? How many gallons of water does it take to make 1 metric ton of lithium? 500,000. Has anybody done a hydrology report on where that's going to go in? And you're going to have a tailings pond. So if you don't know it from top to bottom and getting in it, then you don't know anything. You can't just come out here and say, yeah, that's good, yeah, that's bad. Know it.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. William?
A couple of things in 1 minute. First of all, when I was on city council, remember how you separate your trash? I'm a civil engineer, so I could go down and dig into this. We're actually spending more energy and waste and pollution by separating trash and having 2 trash trucks to go up and down the roads. By the way, those trash trucks destroy the roads and put wear and tear. So recycling can be anti-environmental because it causes more waste, and that's the true story in that cycle. There's not, like you said, there's not enough lithium. These reports, about 5 days ago, the president of Toyota said it's absolutely impossible to build enough electric cars for the world, period. There's not enough lithium, not enough work, third country world. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So we've got to get back to the basics. We've got to get back to the free market. In recycling, you can do your best in recycling. Let the market decide. But don't pollute, but let the market decide.
Thank you. Stephanie?
The point that you brought up, I've read a lot about that, and that is one of the main reasons to roll back all this Green New Deal. And they want us to go all electric, but they have not planned out the infrastructure for power grids. How are they going to put that into place? So the fact that we are going to have all of that waste, what are we going to do with that? I say, don't have it to begin with. So if we roll that back and we go back to what we had before, instead of implementing all of this, we're not going to have that problem.
So we can give you 30 seconds for sure. Go ahead, Rhonda.
I just would like to state the obvious. Do the Democrats really think that the new Green Deal is actually going to go forward? That was just a distraction for us. That's why it's so far ahead in the future, because they know this isn't going to work. So I don't believe the Green Deal is ever going to happen in the first place. I think they just did that so that we can be sitting here talking about that and not talking about the real problems that's going on in America now.
Okay. This part of the discussion is going to be Barry kind of diving deeper into that. We'll start with you, and we'll keep this to 35 seconds per panelist so we can get to each of you 5 on there, I hope.
Talking about the new Green Deal?
Yes.
Just making sure. So here's the thing. I would go back to the static models that I read about on this. They basically want to remove all internal combustion engines from the United States of America in 2035. You see Gavin Newsom trying to do this right now. I'll give you an example why it's never going to work. In the city of Joliet, Illinois, Warner Trucking decided to take 50 trucks and convert them all, or buy new ones, to all electric trucking. The city of Joliet did a study on it. They said the minute you plugged them all in, that it would blow out the transformers across the city. It's not going to work.
William?
So it's not going to work. Everyone is correct here. It's not going to work. We need to stop this foolishness. Democrats, I don't know where they come from. Are they from a different world? Because they're destroying our country. So you've got to vote. I mean, it goes back to getting Republicans, conservatives, free market people based in there. And then finally, one last thing. If we go all electric in these things, I work for the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. You can take out our electric grid real easy if you know how to do it. And they know how to do it. And it takes 6 months to rebuild a transformer. And a high-powered rifle will take out a transformer.
Stephanie?
So we've talked about all of this, but I want to talk about government control, because that's really what it boils down to. I will not support the federal government being so intrusive in our lives. Look at the Fed One program. They want everybody to go cashless, and they get rid of cash. Guess what? That's even more control. Every single thing that they do is controlling us. Look what they did during COVID. You get a vaccine if you want to keep your job. We're going to put a mask on you and your children. We're going to close your schools and churches. It's all about control, and that's where we have to stop this.
Thank you, Stephanie. Tony?
Americans do our best when our backs are against the wall. We put people on the moon, okay? We can solve problems. The whole Green New Deal is about fear and I want to stop scaring our children because they think they aren't going to have a future, and it's a big hoax. The answer to the new Green Deal is, where are all the elites' houses? They're on the shore. So we know that it's a red herring. So Americans, our backs are against the wall. Let's get about R&D and get rid of the Green New Deal. Thank you.
Rhonda, you still get your 35-second follow-up.
I'm still trying to figure out why we're talking about the Green New Deal. It's never going to happen. I'd rather get back to talking about the real problems that's going on in America, because the Democrats like to distract us with this stuff while they're passing legislation that's actually chipping away and destroying our Constitution. I mean, and we, like George Soros sending money over to terrorist organizations, Hamas, we should be talking about that and putting him and listing him as a terrorist, George Soros, but we're not.
Can I rebuttal that?
Thank you. No, unfortunately, we got to move on to the next topic panel. I'm sorry about that. Our next question from the audience, Ralph Wade. Ralph?
Yes. I agree with everything on the panel. Woo! I agree with everything on the panel. But first off is, for me, all this is just junk. We need to be working on veterans dying, getting medication, overstocked, not paid, and then you want to talk about some other country. We already know we're not supposed to be sending no money anywhere except for fixing America. So for me, regardless you Democrat or Republican, you need to start working on how to get rid of these clowns in office. For me, I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. You work together. You sleep together. You have parties together. I'm saying get rid of them. Cut their pay. People getting paid, been on the books for the last 20 years, and they get all this money. Cut it off. When your 20 years is up, they either cut it off or you die and you don't get nothing. So let's stop playing and be real. Look at all these people in here. Some of them got homes they can't even afford because the interest rate is so high. You're not talking about that. Talk about how to do it. Don't tell me what you did and all this other stuff. We want to see you do something here in Nevada, in Pahrump to be exact. The gun laws are fine, but the difference of it is we just tired. Do something. Stop talking and do something. When you get in the office, do something. If you're going back and you're in the office, do something so we can hear about it. We don't want to hear about Russia. We don't want to hear about Israel. We want to hear about the doctors killing us with all this medication and all this environmental stuff that we're not even supposed to eat. And you talking about some other country, we know darn well these deals is not going to go through. We're not dumb and we definitely not stupid. We're here because we want to see something different, something new. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. William Conrad, you get the honor of going first on that one. There's a lot to unpack there. You can take that in a few directions.
So that's wonderful. I'm happy you did that. Yesterday, I have Red Move, a company organization similar to this in Northern Nevada, redmove.org. You can go in and look at it. We did a veterans event. We had the veterans. We had the meals for the veterans. We work with veterans. My 3 kids are in the military. It comes from military. If you don't take care of veterans, you lose your country. That's for sure. So what can we do here? Just reduce the size of the federal government, get back to state and local. The government closest to the people is best. You and your community know what's best for this community of Pahrump, not some far-off, distant capital. And I'll do everything I can to reduce the size of the federal government and return the power to the state and local government.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Thank you for bringing up veterans. That is on the top of my platform alongside children. My son serves. My kid's father is a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force and served 25 years. My brother-in-law is a retired Green Beret. More so than any other group that calls me, veterans call me. And they tell me the problems that they have with VA. They tell me the things that they need. So that's why that is important to me. That's why I'm going to work on that. We need to have more services for veterans. They need to be aware of what's out there to help them. We need more mental health doctors. And we need to streamline some of these procedures and application process with the disability program, because that is very cumbersome. When you have to hire somebody in order to complete that process, there's something wrong with that. And also, I believe the VA should have a time limit of when they have to respond back to a veteran. They shouldn't be sitting out there for months waiting for an appointment to have to see a doctor.
Thank you, Stephanie. Tony.
Very spirited question, but there are veterans up here. Bill Conrad's a veteran, I'm a veteran. I have two of my children that are on the tip of the spear right now. I understand veterans, but our society is interconnected. So when we take care of energy things, it's going to help veterans. It's not like we're disconnected. And I agree and want to echo Bill. I hate to give him deference here, but he's correct that it's got to be handled closest. But I will let you know, to remind you, Donald Trump cut red tape and made it easier for veterans to get help. So part of the answer is leadership. And when you talk about something new, we can't have something new unless we get elected. So we have to get elected and serve a president that has a will, and we have to have leadership in the Senate to be able to solve problems like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Rhonda.
Finally, a topic that touches home that we can actually talk about, because that's what I want to get to. I want to get to these everyday issues that affect everyday Americans. My family has been served in the military since the Civil War. My dad is a Vietnam vet. And when I see veterans sleeping on the streets and homeless and not getting the care that they need, and we're sending and we're giving money to people that come in this country illegally, that doesn't stand right with me. One of the things is most of the people that are on the Veterans Affairs Committee in Washington are Democrats. And I know don't care about Democrats or Republicans, but they've been the ones that have been leading the Veterans Affairs Committee. And they haven't done anything. I know insurance companies, and let's just say the Veterans Affairs is like an insurance company. You put your claim in, and they immediately deny it. Time.
Thank you, Rhonda.
All right. So much shorter time. Sorry.
Barry.
Wait, are you working? Oh, you can hear me. Here's what I know. I know the Disabled Veterans Office is 30 feet. Hang on. Are we good? I know the Disabled Veterans Office is 30 feet that way. I know you need transportation to North Las Vegas to go file your claim or get medical treatment. I know Mesquite also needs transportation for that too. I know that the PAC Act dumped $5.6 million in new claims on the federal government and the VA and has made the system a quagmire. I also know that there's one guy in the Las Vegas Valley teaching 5 nights a week, 100 people on how to file their claims. I know there's 17,000 people in line just to get that. I know that the veterans have 25% women now and they need another facility. I know that facility is going to cost $1,111 per square foot if it's 4 stories and 40,000 square feet. You're right. We need to take care of you. You elect me, it'll be one of my tips of the spear when I go in there. And you'll get your bus and your transportation to go over there. You'll get your medication and you'll get the training, because it's not only veterans benefits, it's Medicare and Medicaid. It all comes together. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Now we're to William to go ahead and start the conversation, or keep the conversation going on the same topic.
So just
35 seconds if you can. Thank
one
you, sir.
point, though. I'm retired and I have TRICARE, but I chose, since I'm a combat veteran, to retain VA. I want to know what the veterans have. I use exclusively VA. My VA in Reno, Nevada has been darn good. I know a lot of the doctors. I just met the chief of staff the other day. But it's important to take care of the veterans. And first of all, there's a lot of veterans here, and some of us didn't return. And I think just about everyone. I was talking to a surgeon yesterday who is a Marine, and I think just about all of us have some kind of post-traumatic stress if we were in war from these last wars. These are terrible wars, the Afghan wars, and Iraq too.
Thank you, William. Stephanie?
I think if we had some accountability with the veteran centers here and the service that they're getting veterans, if we had some sort of a questionnaire and survey that veterans would fill out and we would collect those from all 14 of the veteran service centers here in Nevada, we could see where the shortfall is. Where is that weakness? Where can we improve? There are so many things we can do. We have almost 1,500 veterans, homeless veterans. The money that we're sending out of this country before taking care of our own, I have a huge problem with that, and that would change with me in the Senate.
Thank you, Stephanie. Tony?
I think a lot of the problem has to do with management of the system. Going back to the comment that I made about President Trump cutting the regulations, that was an innovative way to think about it. So what we need to do with the veterans is just like what has happened here, is understand the problem and figure out how to solve it. Try to solve the problem locally, but when there are synergies, i.e. in the regular medical system that can overlap with the VA medical system, we need to be innovative in doing things like that. And those are the ways that we need to attack this problem.
Time.
Thank you, Tony. Rhonda, your follow-up?
I know my colleague here may not like to hear this, but they all know what the problem is. Congress knows, the Senate knows, they just don't, they choose not to fix it. We're sitting here talking about what the problem is. They know that. And I've helped veterans get their benefits as a lawyer because it took the legal system for them to be able, for them to force them to do it, because they had to be threatened to be sued before they actually gave them their benefits. So maybe veterans should just get together and do a class action and force the government to do what they're supposed to do.
Thank you, Rhonda. Barry, your follow-up?
It seems like I'm yelling at you guys. I just get excited. That's all. So I don't mean to. I don't know if a class action suit is worth the time to do when the need is immediate, right? What does it take to get a bus out here to move you over to North Las Vegas to get that done? I sincerely believe that whoever winds up in the position that they make sure that what we need to do is take care of things now, not in 6 months. It has to happen now.
Okay. Thank you for all your answers on that. That was a tough, very big question. So I think we have another question from the name. They actually wrote the question on here. I'm going to have to choose a different one. I apologize. Yeah, maybe. Okay. And the last question that we're going to have time for this panel before we get to closing statements is coming from Judy Lovegren. Judy?
I'd just like to ask all the candidates up here, you seem like fine folks, but how many people have we already sent that go back there and all of a sudden they become the go along to get along? What makes you stand out from all those other ones that are back there that aren't doing their job? Why would I want to give you my vote?
And we'll start with Stephanie on that one.
I've been asked that a lot, and thank you for asking that. I have a lot vested in this state. I have lived here for 30 years. I started my business almost 19 years ago. I don't need a job. I have a job. I have a home here. My kids were born and raised here. I see what Nevada is doing. They keep sending the same candidates over and over, and we keep doing the same thing, and we keep losing. So I got fed up. I'm fed up just like the rest of you. And I'm standing up, and I'm standing before you and telling you, I will put my life aside, my business, my home, my family. I will go to DC and I will represent you. The name, the fame, the money, the power, none of that means anything to me. What means something to me is representing everybody in here and having true representation from a true Nevadan who cares about you. I didn't move here from another state to just run for office. I don't have any big mega donors. I'm not bought and paid for by anyone. I am truly here to represent your best interests.
Thank you, Stephanie. Tony.
what makes me different is I've been to D.C. and I don't want to go back. I have 4 children. I went to the Air Force Academy. Children don't listen. The oldest went to Annapolis and the baby went to West Point. I have a molecular biologist and I have one who runs a personal training business. Why am I doting on my kids? They're successful. I know how to help children be successful. I think we need to elect leaders that want all American children to be successful. And when I go to D.C., I am not there because I want to be a U.S. Senator. I'm going to D.C. to serve you, and you can hold me accountable.
Thank you, Tony. Rhonda?
I'm just a little taken aback. But I have been in the trenches, fighting on the front lines for this country. I have been persecuted. I have been ridiculed. I have Facebook pages and websites that have been created just for anti-Rhonda. Because when you have enemies like that, then you know you're doing something right. I am not bought and paid for. And if anyone knows me, and you can ask anyone who knows me, that I'm no one's puppet. No one can tell me what to do. My vote in the Senate will belong to the people, not the party. If it's against the Constitution, if it's against the will of the people, you don't get my vote. I will say no, and I will stand up to Washington. I have a lot of friends in Washington, trust me. When you get there, it's hard to stand up, but I don't have a problem.
Thank you, Rhonda. Barry?
I like the question because the government broke trust.
Yes.
Right? Yesterday, a guy named Howie Rich called me. He's from New York. He's asking candidates to sign the term limits pledge, and I did, and I sent it back to him. I can't come back here unless I did a good job because you guys would tear me apart if I don't. I don't need this job. Not the hassle. I don't need any of that, right? I'd be happy to retire in the next 5 years. But this country is so devastated that I cannot hand it off to my millennial children, we're Republican, and feel good about it. Somebody's got to go and stop the spending. Somebody's got to go and train government to really be for the taxpayer first. You're not going to get me. I'm a guy who, if it comes out of my mouth, I say it. If I'm going to go fight for you, then I'm fighting for you. Because what's good for you is actually really good for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. William?
Well, I was going to say there are the 2 combat veterans. One's endorsed by Lindsey Graham and Steve Daines. I'm not the one, so you all know who that is. So back in Washington, you've got somebody who's basically the Republican National Senate Committee has decided who the candidate's going to be up here. And these are all better candidates. I would take any one of these candidates over what D.C. has decided. So think out there, start yelling and screaming and say, we don't want Washington establishment, especially the Republican left, to decide who the senator from this state's going to be. So if you elect me, I will represent you. I will not vote wherever Mitch McConnell wants me to vote. In fact, I won't vote for Mitch McConnell, period, for leadership.
Thank you, William. Okay, so we're going to open up a little bit of a discussion. Again, a little bit of follow-up here. We're going to start the 35-second follow-ups, starting with Tony and then working to end with Stephanie. Thank you.
Working in D.C. is really tough because you have to stay focused. But you always have to remember who you're representing. And it's a tireless, thankless job. But you know what's important? What's important is that you have hope and that you have trust in me that I am going to stand on the basis of the Constitution and not stick my finger up and see where the wind is blowing. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to protect the rights of Nevadans and to protect the rights of Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rhonda? Yes, ma'am.
still just a little rattled because of how much I've sacrificed. I mean, death threats. I've had my co-counsel, Mark Angelucci, was murdered because I was exposing the pipeline of human trafficking of children through the CPS system. Anyway, the people who are in my circle are the real freedom fighters, like Jim Jordan, Byron Donaldson, Roger Stone. Those are the people that are in my circle. Those are the people that I can pick up the phone and call. That's exactly where I would be, and those are the people that I would be with to make sure that we continue to fight and protect America.
Thank you, Rhonda. Barry?
What's the question again? Look, I think what it comes down to is that we need to take care of the people in the United States of America and first, nowhere else. You know, I don't like the fact that we're sending money outside of our country before you guys get to feel its effects, whether that's in infrastructure or whether that's in benefits or whatever it is. We need to be first on everything.
Thank you, sir. And William.
I think I started.
No, Stephanie started.
Oh, this is the...
Yeah, this is just a 35
30-second
follow-up
reply
to the-
back, yeah. So I was going to say, right out of high school, I was going to enlist in the Marine Corps, and I applied for the Naval Academy, and I ended up at West Point. Long story. But my whole life has been service and duty, my family's service and duty. I was raised by the greatest generation. 5 generations in the military, service and duty. When I got out, I was 9 years active, Air National Guard. Then because I got frustrated, I ran for city council, and unfortunately I won. And thank goodness the war came along and got me out of city council after 5 years, 10 months. But service and duty is important to me. I'm 66. I won't serve more than 1, maybe 2 terms. I think you need to go up and come back.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie?
To answer your question some more, I always ask people, I ask people to vet their candidates, and I ask people to vet their candidates and look at the motivation of why they're running. Look at their history. Have they ever voted in Nevada? We have candidates in this race that have never voted in Nevada. We have candidates in this race that used to be a different party and now all of a sudden are Republicans. We have candidates that have just moved here last year and filed for Senate 2 months later, don't own homes in Nevada. We have people with different certain, motivations, and I encourage people to really look at your candidate and their background and where their motivation lies and why they're running. Time.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I want to. That last segment started with Tony on the 35. Yeah, it started with Tony. Okay, so I want to thank the audience for those questions and contributing to our discussion. In a little bit, we're going to break, but before we do that, I just want to have just one quick round of applause. Rhonda, you're going to end up going first on your closings.
But, however, I'm going to ask this of all fairness, because I've been attacked 3 times by Ms. Phillips. I believe that I need to have an additional time to rebut the personal attacks that I just had from Ms. Phillips. No, you don't have to say any names. I moved back to Nevada in 2022. I'm the only one that moved back here last year.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. So I moved to Nevada in 2000. From 2000 to 2010, I left Wisconsin because I fled my abusive ex-husband. I came here, made a life for myself, and I left and went to California for work and practiced law there. When I left, I was heavily involved in the Republican Party. When I left, this state was red. When I came back, this state had Sisolak as a governor. My motivation has always been the Constitution and protecting the people. I had 2 choices. I could have come here, or I could have gone to Florida. I was actually asked by Roger Stone to go to Florida. I didn't. I came back to Nevada, back where I started, back where my life was, back where my kids graduated from high school. I have 6 kids, including 10-year-old triplets who are here now being raised. So my motivation is to do what I did in the trenches of California, to do that here, because everybody benefited from my cases. Ninth Circuit.
Okay. Thank you, Rhonda.
And I know people are going to say I'm an angry woman, but I'm very passionate.
Okay. Okay, that's time
don't
on
think
that.
you're
But
angry.
Rhonda, if you want to stay
Can
up for
I
just
answer that since she mentioned me personally?
Since we allotted you a good 45 seconds on that, I'm going to give Ms. Phillips a 30-second rebuttal, and
Yeah,
then you go
she's gonna
first
need
on
it.
closing statements.
Just, you have to look at the voter records of every single candidate, not just the ones up here. Hers shows she just registered to vote in May of this year and has no voting history in Nevada. It looks like the home she lives in is rented and not owned. I can say there's many things with all these candidates. There's mega donors for one of them. They're not you, Bill. They are backed by the DC establishment. I encourage people to truly look at the details of the candidates, look at their history, look how they have voted, and look at what they have vested in Nevada.
Thank you, Stephanie. We're going to go right
Maybe
to...
we should start looking at the Constitution and see what the qualifications are to be a U.S. Senator. Last time I checked, it wasn't that you needed to own a home in the state. You didn't even have to live there, but I live there. So I go by the Constitution, not other people's personal feelings.
Rhonda, we're gonna go into closing statements now, and you are actually up next on that, or first on that. So we're doing 1-minute closing statements for the candidates before we break for an intermission here and end this part of the events. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Thank you. I want to say this to everybody here and people that are in this state that will be voting. Ask yourself, do you want a candidate who understands and knows the Constitution? Do you want a candidate who can actually do something and know the limitations of your office and actually already have relationships in DC, including our will-be President Trump, who endorsed me in 2020? Or do you want a candidate who's going to say, this is what I'm going to do? I do have a proven track record. And I get passionate about this because I know the sacrifice that I have made, that my family has made. Everybody says they have a day job. I have a day job as well. I love my day job. That's fighting for constitutional rights in court. I sued Facebook. I sued the government. And I'm also going to be filing on behalf, I'm suing the government for Donald Trump for the gag order as a private citizen.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you.
Tony, you're next.
Thank you all for being here tonight because I had the opportunity to talk with you. This is about beating Jackie Rosen. If we don't beat Jackie Rosen, nothing's going to change. What I would like you to do is think about what candidate can best beat Jackie Rosen. I stand here before you today to tell you that I understand foreign policy. I understand the military instrument of power. I understand strategy. I understand the economic instrument of power. I understand grand strategy. I have the tool set to beat Jackie Rosen because non-traditional Republican voters are going to want to look at me when you vote me to win the primary. So please take a look at that. I'm Tony Grady, running to be your next senator. It was my honor to be here tonight before you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for being involved. I really appreciate it. We see such apathy across this country and state, and we have to get involved to save our country. That is the reason I jumped in, is because I got so tired of seeing what the government is doing to us. and we need a fighter to fight back. I am the first ever single mom and real estate broker to ever run for this seat in the state of Nevada. And when I am your senator, Nevada will make history in electing their first female Republican ever to the United States Senate. I plan to fight for you. I will protect children, protect veterans, seniors, Social Security. I have signed the term limits pledge. I have signed the no new tax pledge. I will protect you, fight for this state, and hold DC accountable. Thank you so much. Vote Stephanie Phillips. Thank you so much.
So one thing, I want to read two things and read a short statement. First of all, I think why I can win this election is I can work with the Libertarians, bring them together so they don't run a candidate against Republicans. That's 2 or 3%. That's enough to win the election for Senate. I think I can do it. I know a lot of Libertarians. I like Libertarians. I'll be a Libertarian Republican. Secondly, I'm going to read the statement real fast. Do you want a candidate supported by the establishment, endorsed by Steve Daines and Lindsey Graham, or do you want a principled conservative combat veteran with a proven voting record who will fight for Nevada every day in the Senate rather than take up the partisan establishment and vote for, of course, the liberal Republican leadership? To learn more about my campaign, please go to electagreenberet.com, and finally, I use a little business reply envelope, little card here. Check out my website. I do a lot of writing, I do blogging, and there's just a lot of good information on there about principles and liberty. We didn't talk about family values today. I wish we would have talked a little bit about that, the traditional family I believe in.
Time.
Thank you, William. Barry, your turn to close the show.
Thanks very much. I've had a great time here, and I appreciate you guys coming out and seeing the new guy with his name falling off and his short mic. So here's where it is. I started out by saying my candidacy starts with two prongs: taxpayer first and punish government. So I'm going to end with punish government. Inflation starts and ends in Washington, D.C., and I don't know why we then get the brunt of inflation and then they come and tax us. We need new thinking in Washington, and the thinking has to be like this. If the government puts inflation on the table where it's like 15%, which is what I think it is in the state of Nevada right now, why don't we offset our tax bracket by 15% and put inflation back on the government? This saves you a lot of money, right? So if you're gonna elect somebody, find an original thinker, find somebody who knows the issues in and out, up and down.
Time.
Go to nvsenateseat.com. I'm Barry Lindeman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, I really want to thank the panel. I want to thank you, United States Senate candidates, each and every one of you. I want to thank the audience for the spirited questions to contribute to this event. Again, we're going to break here in a moment for about 15 minutes before we get to the Nye County Commission candidate panel. Before we do that, I want to just ask for one last round of applause for each and every one of these candidates. Thank you so much.